So today we will be discussing about ENT instruments used in OPD. So the first one is bullseye lamp. It consists of a metal box with vents within which is kept a 100-watt bulb. Light rays come out through a central opening in the box. There is a biconvex lens of approximately 30 to 40 cm focal length at the opening. So this is the picture. This helps to give a parallel beam of bright light. During examination, lamps should be placed around 30 cm behind the left shoulder of the patient. The lamp can be adjusted to focus the rays on the head mirror. This is another instrument, head mirror. So Hoffman in 1841 designed the first otologic head mirror. The head mirror consists of a adjustable plastic headband attached to a concave mirror. The mirror has a central hole. The diameter of the concave mirror is 9 cm, while that of the central aperture is 2 cm, and the focal length of the mirror is approximately 25 cm. When parallel rays of light from the bull's eye lamp reflects on the mirror, the light rays converge at the focal point of the mirror. So if the patient is at a distance of 25 cm, you can have the brightest light. Advantage of using a head mirror with bullseye lamp is both hands are free for procedures, binocular vision which gives you depth perception. Disadvantage, the setup would be bulky with a light source, and electricity is required for the light source. So the user also has a limited mobility compared to that of the headlight. The other instrument is tuning fork. The tuning fork is a metallic instrument. John Shore, a British musician, invented it in 1711. Ernest Heinrich Weber was a German physician who, along with his physicist brother Wilhelm, published his studies in 1825. He was a professor of physiology and anatomy. He is considered a founder of experimental psychology as well. The Weber test is named after him. The other person is Heinrich Adolf Rene, and he and D. Swabach of Berlin in 1885 provided the information on the tuning fork tests. These tests provide one of the most valuable methods for differentiating between conductive and sensorineural hearing loss. Friedrich Bizold was the first to use terms positive and negative to describe the results of Rene's test. So this is a tuning fork. So it has different parts: 2 prongs, shoulder, stem, base. So the 2 prongs are attached at the shoulder, and then there is a stem and the base or foot plate. So common types of tuning fork are the Hartmann type and Gardiner type of tuning fork. Tuning fork is commonly available in various frequencies like 128, 256, 512 and 1024. A set of tuning fork includes 256, 512 and 1024 Hz. So uses of the tuning fork is to detect the type of hearing loss, to make an approximate estimate of the degree of hearing loss. Why is the 512 Hz tuning fork commonly used for hearing assessment tests? Because it is present in the mid-speech frequency range. Overtones are minimal with this. Sound is more auditory than tactile in nature, and tone decay is optimal. How is this used? To activate, the tuning fork is struck at the junction of upper 1/3 and lower 2/3 of the prongs. The vibrating tuning fork with the prongs in the acoustic axis is placed at a distance of around 2.5 cm from the external auditory canal for air conduction. The vibrating tuning fork is then placed with the base touching the mastoid process for bone conduction. So here are some of examples that are shown here. In case 1, like if a patient has a negative Rene test in 256 Hz but positive in 512 and 1024, then the hearing loss would be approximately 20 to 30 decibel. Whereas if 256 and 512 are negative and 1024 is positive, then the hearing loss is 30 to 45 decibel. If all the tuning fork set are negative on Rini's test, then the hearing loss would be 45 to 60 decibel. A negative Rini for 256, 512 and 1024 Hz indicates a minimum earbone gap of 15, 30 and 45 decibel respectively. The other instrument used in OPD is oral speculum. It is used to examine the external ear canal and the tympanic membrane. The speculum is gently inserted into the ear canal after pulling the pinna backward, laterally and upwards in adult. In children, it is inserted in the canal by pulling the pinna backwards, laterally and downwards. This maneuver is essential to straighten the tortuous ear canal. The speculum is inserted up to the cartilaginous meatus without touching the bony canal, as it is very sensitive and can be painful. As you can see, the speculum has outer surface which is shiny and smooth, so it is easy for insertion, whereas the inner surface is dull, so light doesn't reflect back to your eyes. Uses. The ear speculum is used in examination of external ear canal and tympanic membrane, removal of wax, foreign body, automycosis or ear discharge, in operative procedures like myringotomy, myringoplasty, staphylotomy and other ear surgeries, for transcanal injections. The different types of oral speculum are Holmgren adjustable oral speculum. This is a self-retaining adjustable oral speculum with a screw, used for examination of ear and for ear surgeries. Hartmann oral speculum. This is a funnel-shaped speculum that has no slit on the body. The broader end is thickened with serrations for better grip. Rosen oral speculum. This is an oral speculum with an incomplete slit on its body. So as you can see here, there is an incomplete slit. The slit is useful for injections on the external aortic canal with the speculum in place. Sia oral speculum. This oral speculum resembles Hartmann oral speculum. However, the narrow end has a bevel edge. Tumarkin oral speculum. This oral speculum has a complete split on its body to facilitate intraoral injections into the external canal. Other types of oral speculum are namely Toynbee speculum, Ferrier speculum, Politzer speculum, Heath speculum, Gruber speculum, and Zollner speculum. The other common instrument is otoscope. It is a handheld battery-operated instrument used to visualize the external aortic canal, tympanic membrane, and the middle ear through the tympanic perforation. It has a convex lens which gives a magnification of 2 times. It has a fiber optic light conveyance system for delivery of light to the oral speculum that is available in different sizes. Some of the otoscope have a provision for attachment of pneumatic speculum for Siegelization. Siegel in 1864 introduced pneumatic otoscope. It has a bulb with a rubber tube attached to it and a nozzle at the tip of the tube for attachment to the otoscope. It is used for checking mobility of the tympanic membrane. Can also be used for fistula test. So Siegel's pneumatic speculum. Parts: a rubber bulb, the rubber tube, oral speculum, and eyepiece with a convex lens. Uses: testing the mobility of tympanic membrane, for Siegelization, fistula test. Examination of external ear canal and tympanic membrane can also be done, and instillation of powder medications. The other instrument is Politzer bag. It has different parts: the rubber bulb and olive-shaped nosepiece. This Politzer bag is used to test eustachian tube function and sometimes also as a treatment of eustachian tube blockage. How to use this instrument? The nosepiece is inserted into nasal vestibule on the side of the eustachian tube to be tested, or the nostril is closed to prevent air leak. The rubber bulb is now pressed, and at the same time the patient is asked to swallow. By means of an auscultation tube connecting the patient's ear under test to the examiner's ear, a hissing sound is heard if the eustachian tube is patent. This test can also be used to artificially ventilate the middle ear. Adam Politzer was a prolific author and teacher. His name is associated with Politzer bag, cone of light, speculum, and the test for unilateral deafness. He introduced one of the first mechanical audiometers. He correctly described otosclerosis as the disease of labyrinthine capsule rather than being secondary to chronic middle ear catarrh as was thought. In 1896, he first published Atlas of Photos of Tympanic Membrane by Illumination. The other instrument is eustachian tube catheter. It is a metallic catheter with a curved proximal end and a ring at its base. The opening of its curved proximal end is at its tip. This instrument is usually 12 to 15 centimeters long. A ring on the proximal end indicates the direction of the tip of catheter. This is not commonly used nowadays to test the patency of the eustachian tube, as there are other automatic equipments to do the same. It resembles the sinus dosing cannula, which is shorter and has an opening not at the tip but little proximal to it. Uses: to test the patency of eustachian tube, to inflate the middle ear, to instill medications in the middle ear, to remove foreign bodies from the nose, or also can be used as a suction cannula. Other tests of eustachian tube dysfunction are Valsalva maneuver, Toynbee maneuver, Politzerization, Siegeleization, Frenzel maneuver, sonotubometry, impedance audiometry, radiological evaluations like X-ray, self-angiography, CT scan, or MRI. The procedure of catheterization. Surface anesthesia of nose is achieved by spraying 4% lignocaine. The catheter is passed along the floor of the nose till it reaches the posterior wall of nasopharynx. The tip is now rotated 90 degrees medially and withdrawn anteriorly till the tip touches the posterior wall of nasal septum. The catheter is now rotated 180 degrees laterally, and the tip of the catheter is expected to be at the pharyngeal opening of the eustachian tube. By gentle manipulation, the opening of the eustachian tube is entered. Now, Politzer bag is attached and the bag is squeezed. Sound heard on auscultation of the ear will give status of the eustachian tube. Findings: in case of tubal blockage, no sound is heard. In partial blockage, bubbling sound is heard. If the eustachian tube is stenosed, whistling sound is heard. And if it is patent, air insufflation sound heard. Jonathan Wathen in 1755 described the method of introduction of the eustachian catheter by way of the nose to the eustachian tube. Complication of this procedure: severe pain, epistaxis, syncopal attack, damage to the pharyngeal end of the eustachian tube. Bartholomeus Eustachius He was an Italian anatomist, one of the first to describe accurately the eustachian tube and its relationship to the body. He wrote a book, Epistola de Auditus Organis, which was first book exclusively about ear. He also described tensor tympani muscles and stapes. Antonio Valsalva, an Italian anatomist, divided the ear into three parts: outer, middle, and inner ear. He wrote De Aure Humana, describing anatomy as seen in over 1,000 temporal bone dissections. Applied the term labyrinth to the entire inner ear. The parts of the cochlea were named as scala vestibuli and scala tympani. He described the muscles of the pinna. He named eustachian for the pharyngo-tympanic tube in honor of Eustachius. He was the first to demonstrate the presence of ankylosis of the stapes at postmortem. He suggested the use of the method of blowing out strongly while holding mouth and nose closed, forcing air to pass into the middle ear by the way of eustachian tube when it was blocked. This method is popularly called Valsalva maneuver. Joseph Toynbee. He was an Englishman, dissected more than 2,000 temporal bones and formed a collection which became known as the Toynbee Collection in the Museum of the Royal College of Surgeons. In 1860, his work Disease of the Ear was published. He noted that the eustachian tube was not permanently open but lightly closed, and that it opened only during such movements as swallowing or yawning. In one of his dissections, Toynbee recognized a fistula of the external semicircular canal, and he pointed out that infection could extend to the brain by way of the labyrinth. Toynbee was one of the first to describe otosclerosis, and he recognized it in 160 cases. While trying to treat his own tinnitus experimentally by inhaling chloroform and performing Valsalva maneuver, he died. The other instrument is Jobson-Horn probe. This instrument has two ends. One end has a ring and the other end is serrated probe or the cotton applicator. Uses of Jobson-Horn probe is in removal of wax, removal of foreign body in ear and nose, removal of granulations in the ear. The probe end is used to probe polyp in the nose and ear. The probe end can act as a cotton swab carrier and can clean the ear or apply medication. This is a cotton applicator, foreign body hook. The other instrument is ear vectis with cerumen spud. This instrument is used to remove wax and foreign bodies from the ear. One end of this instrument has a ring vectis, while the other end is a blunt curette. Hartmann oral forceps. This instrument resembles the Tilly oral forceps. It has screw joint and the serrated and grooved jaws. The tip is wide and spade-like. It is used to deliver dressings and medications into the ear. It can also be used to remove foreign bodies in ear canal. Lucey curved oral forceps. This instrument is used both in ear and nose. This is a bayonet-shaped instrument to pack or unpack the ear. The bayonet shape ensures unobstructed view of the field while working. Troilt's oral forceps. This is a forceps used both in the ear and nose. It can be used to pack and unpack spaces and cavities. It can also deliver medications in dressings. Simpson's oral syringe. It is a metallic syringe with a nozzle piston inside a cylindrical body and a handle. Uses to remove softened wax, to remove non-hygroscopic foreign body and small hygroscopic foreign bodies. Steps of syringing. The patient is seated with ear to be syringed towards the examiner. A towel is placed around his neck. A kidney tray is placed over the shoulder and held snugly by the patient. Patient's head is slightly tilted over the tray to collect the return fluid. Pinna is pulled upward and backward, and a stream of warm water, which is around body temperature, from the ear syringe is directed along the posterior superior wall of the meatus. Pressure of water, which builds up deeper to the wax, expels the wax out. If wax is tightly impacted, it is necessary to create a space between it and the meatal wall for the jet of the water to pass. Otherwise, syringing will be ineffective or may even push the wax deeper. Ear canal should be inspected from time to time to see if all wax has been removed. At the end of the procedure, ear canal and tympanic membrane must be inspected and dried with a plaiset of cotton. Contraindications of syringing. In cases of perforated tympanic membrane, otitis externa, CSF otorrhea, large hygroscopic foreign body, atrophied or thinned out tympanic membrane. Complications: tympanic membrane rupture, vasovagal attack, injury to the external auditory canal, and vertigo due to stimulation of labyrinth. The other instrument is Baroni noise box. This is a device used to produce the noise and mask the non-test ear during tuning fork test. Robert Baroni. In 1906, he invented the chair for use during vestibular testing. In 1914, he received Nobel Prize for clarification of physiology and pathology of vestibular apparatus. He established caloric testing as diagnostic tool and also new criteria for diagnosis of labyrinthitis. Frenzel nystagmus spectacle. So this instrument is used to detect the presence of nystagmus in a patient. The labyrinthine nystagmus is suppressed with visual fixation when worn by the patient. The power of this convex lens is 20 diopter and it prevents the visual fixation of the image. There is a battery pack and a bulb for illumination and detection of nystagmus.